Hi, my name is Myrna Badr. I'll be analyzing the poem The Origin of the Species by Lorna Crozier. First, I would like to introduce the author Lorna Crozier. Lorna Crozier is a well-known Canadian poet. She was born in Swift Current, Saskatchewan in 1948. Lorna Crozier was an English teacher herself, which influenced her to publish her own work and become a well-known poet. She is a very significant poet because Lorna Crozier has a unique way of expressing her thoughts through her poetry, and also she does not limit her audience or her readers to one message or purpose throughout her poetry. She leaves all her written pieces kind of open-ended. Some people overlook the deeper meaning, while other people really analyze every written piece she does and develops a totally different purpose and theme. The main themes that Lorna Crozier uses throughout all her written work is human relationship, the natural world, memory and perception, and language. Usually there isn't one clear specific theme, but throughout all her poetry, the main themes that can be detected by different interpretations are these. So as I said earlier, I'll be analyzing the poem The Origin of the Species. First, I would like to talk about the context of the poem. A euphemus is mentioned throughout the whole poem, which is like the earliest known horse. It's an animal. My personal interpretation was that a euphemus is a symbolism to a particular group in society, which she refers as, which she talks as, but as an animal rather than actually people. The audience of the poem, in my point of view, are all age groups, and as I said earlier, all age groups and all cultures and all societies are able to read her poems, but it differs, the interpretations differ based on which age group or which society they are in, but I think the audience of this particular poem is all age groups. The purpose of the poem is that a euphemus is a symbol of a particular group of people, and to detect and like considering what a euphemus is, certain people, their origins of the people were too beautiful than they are today, which kind of goes to the theme that I kind of interpreted while reading this poem, which is the beautifulness of the origins of something, how pure and beautiful an origin of anything really is. So throughout the structure of this poem is that it's a free verse and it consists of short stanzas, about 9 short stanzas. To start with, Lorna Crozier starts the poem with a quote, "But the old man only said that it was pointless to speak of there being no horses in the world, for God would not permit such a thing." I think this is kind of symbolizing the significance of horses in the world, as she says God would not permit such a thing. I think horses are really symbolize people really, and God would not really permit a world with non-existing people. The first stanza of the poem, or the first line, she says, drenched with dawn, you hippus. Drenched is a use of diction that kind of emphasizes a euhippus and kind of explains, like gives the reader the first interpretation of the poem or the first purpose of the poem where a euhippus is going to be analyzed. Smaller than a fox, walked out of chaos. Walked out of chaos is visual imagery. As readers, you could imagine a literal horse, because literally a euhippus isn't really a very familiar animal, but you could imagine a horse, knowing what a euhippus is, that is walking out of chaos. The second stanza, she struck the sand, water gushed from her hoofprint. Gushed from her hoofprint is also a use of diction in my point of view, which emphasizes the pureness of a euhippus, the pureness of, like, euhippus is technically the origin of the horse species. So the beautifulness of this origin. Drops flying through the air, and where they fell, the sky came down to rest. This is also visual imagery of sunset, something very beautiful, a time where people just like to just stare at the sky and see the sun set down, which is visual imagery. and a thousand miracles of grass meadowed the desert. This is also meadowed the desert is diction, and a thousand miracles of grass meadowed the desert, the whole phrase itself, it can be considered as imagery. For centuries, Euhippus lived satisfied and self-contained. This helps relate to the theme because, as I said before, Euhippus is the origin of horses, and then they lived satisfied and self-contained. This is also a tone like detector, where we could detect a positive kind of tone. The next stanza, then her legs and muzzle lengthened, muscles pushed against her withers, thickened her neck. This, as clear as it seems, is kind of a tone shift of how Euhippus lived satisfied, but then her muscles pushed against each other and her neck started to get thicker. So this is kind of like a very enthusiastic tone of how beautiful it was at first and how pure it was, and then now everything's starting to destructure and get out of shape. Now, ready for the wind, she made it lean and boneless. Lean and boneless is imagery as well as diction, because now you could imagine a very healthy Euhippus or a very healthy horse that is now lean and boneless. Its mane and tail visible across the sky. Imagine horse and wind running in the sun's warm pastures before the fall. This is imagery. At the same time, it allows the reader to physically imagine such an image of a horse running in the sun's warm pasture, which is such a beautiful scene. Thinking about it, a horse with flying hair and just running. Very beautiful. The other stanza also mentions, imagine the two of them alone, adrift in the absolute bed of grass. This is also a use of repetition because she uses the word imagine twice, so she repeats the concept of imagining. This is also imagery because it also allows the reader to imagine an image where the horse and wind running. So it kind of imagines how the horse is running with the wind and how beautiful such an image could be. And then it goes back by saying no insect biting, no rope or brittle. So no insect biting, nothing is disturbing this beautiful image that the readers have set in their mind. There are no insect biting, which I think symbolizes that there are no disruption to this beautiful image. No rope or brittle, nothing to stop this scene from happening, nothing to distract it, nothing to make it bad from nothing to disrupt the beautifulness of this scene. And long ago, in the mornings of that lost and long ago beginning, nothing broken or in need of breaking. So this kind of, again, goes back to the main theme that I kind of detected at first, is that the beautifulness of the origin. And I think that a Euhippus symbolizes a particular group of people. Relating it to the context of the poem itself, if you relate the Euhippus to people, you could kind of see how, if you imagine a world so perfect and if you imagine a very beautiful scene with no insect biting or no rope or bridle, this kind of relates to how the origins of something can be so beautiful and so pure if it wasn't really disrupted by another factor, if it wasn't really, if it wasn't disrupted by another factor. So throughout the poem, The Origin of the Species by Lorna Crozier uses a very specific selection of very, very significant diction. She also uses visual imagery, symbolism, tone shift, also repetition, all together to create the theme of the beautifulness of the origins of something. In this case, a Euhippus, which is the origin, the earliest known horse, so the origin of the horse species, symbolized as the origins of maybe mankind or the origins of maybe animals in particular. Lorna Crozier is a very significant poet when it comes to relating society and people to animals and the animal world. She does this throughout most of her poetry throughout her life. She really uses different animals and symbolizes them as particularly people, which makes her such a significant poet. As well, it allows different interpretations to happen to different interpretations by different age groups or different culture, different society to interpret the same poem differently. Thank you.